Since its release, Warhammer 40k Darktide has had a pretty steep decline in its popularity. It had a lot of initial hype behind it, because a lot of Warhammer fans wanted to see a successful 40k game that could break the mold compared to what we usually get, a game that is decent but not really amazing in the wider gaming community. So this was something that we were very hopeful for. Unfortunately, this did not happen. It launched with many different issues, with the main ones being its stability, content, and progression, or lack thereof for all of those things. However, the developers at Fatshark have been putting in a hell of a shift to be able to get the game to where it honestly should have been at launch. So that's why today I wanted to go through what has changed 6 months down the track. Now that you know the details, let's just get stuck into it. There's a lot of different reasons why Darktide wasn't able to be the game that we all wanted it to be. Now, I still think that Darktide is not perfect by any means, but there are some enjoyable aspects to it, which is why I still spend a lot of time playing it. However, for many other players, it fell short in a lot of different categories. And I don't want to overly focus on just the negatives, so let's start off with what has changed and what's been added to the game since release, and then give some constructive ideas at the end. We have seen a decent amount of updates, hotfixes for the game, and the main ones that have really helped are the crafting system rework, adding new penances and cosmetics that can be purchased with in-game currency, a couple of new maps and weapons, and also a whole bunch of balancing and stability changes. The impression that I have of Darktide now is that it's pretty much where I would have expected it to be at launch. The Chaos Spawn that was in the intro is now finally in the game, and the stability is way better. I still had maybe 1 or 2 crashes for about 8 hours of game time, but for anyone who's played during the game's release, you will know that that is a massive improvement. The crafting system isn't perfect, but it's a hell of a step up from before. On release, it was basically a gacha game or a clicking simulator, but now it is less rage-inducing. You can also spend a fair amount of time at max level trying to find the perfect set of equipment and weapons with the different blessings to find a powerful combination, and for someone who's maxed out all my characters, this adds something to do, and it's nice to try and work towards something, which I also enjoy. I don't want to act as if I am the source for this improvement, but I was actually really happy to see that they have actually added more to the penance system. They are now more realistic challenges, and you can also get them from naturally playing the game, and it gives people a little bit more options for free customizations. There is also the commissary, which is a nice little touch because you let players buy other cosmetics with in-game currency. Some of them even look really cool. I hope that this is progressively added to so that people don't actually feel as if they have to go with the microtransactions, because they are still present, but if they keep adding to this, I will be happy. After the game's release, we had a couple of weapons added, but they felt more like a late addition because they just weren't ready for the main release, same as the Chaos Spawn. But we have had a couple more actually join the roster as variants with different shotguns and swords, and this is where I start to slip into my constructive criticism, because the weapon distribution is absolutely scuffed. Like, the veteran gets such a wide variety of weapons, but all the other classes, especially the Ogryn, get significantly less, and you really feel that on the late game, because there just isn't as much variety for your class. Players and the community are still really fun and good to interact with, but you feel very little connection because none of the social features in this game work as they're supposed to. You can't add friends, and to me, that is a big negative. There have been a bunch of times where I have come across someone who was nice or funny, and I would have loved to play more with them. It's either bring a friend with you or just play solo. There's no in between. And to me, that just doesn't make sense, because why bother with having an entire community hub area if you can't actually connect with other players in the first place? You want to actually foster the idea of players connecting with one another and making those awesome and funny moments. At the time of recording, you also can't play with people that have the game through Xbox Game Pass, even though they are still physically on a PC. In the latest community update, this is in the works, so hopefully that happens soon. And they also vaguely mentioned an Xbox release as well. So that is promising for potentially relaunching the game down the track. As someone who has spent a lot of time on Darktide, I don't have enough to keep me interested. Maybe it's the fact that the missions aren't as distinct from one another because you pass through similar areas. Maybe it's because the aesthetic is grungy Hive City instead of various environments like Vermintide. Because in Warhammer 40k, when you've seen one manufactorum, you've seen them all. And I've mentioned this multiple times, but if you're going to let us choose a home planet from the Mobian sector, then they would be a fantastic place to go in future content. I would love to see what the developers could do with a bit more creative freedom rather than just the same drab color palette. They nail the Warhammer 40k aesthetic, but they're only just touching what we've already seen time and time again. I think that what is possible could really be jaw-dropping, and that is something that would bring people into the game and definitely bring a lot of other players back. Another thing that we need more of is subclasses, like the Vermintide games, so that there are differences in how you play. Adding things like that will help to give this game the depth that it needs. This will create intricate balances, and it'll encourage players to challenge themselves with higher difficulties, working together every step of the way. The end result is that I still find the gameplay fun, but it's not varied enough to make me feel like I should return for a long time, just short little visits here and there. I enjoy cracking skulls and having a joke, but because very few people are playing the game, if I get matched with someone that I enjoy spending time with, I can't even add them. So that's something that is a pretty clear limit. Here is my verdict though. If you have not played more than 10 hours of Darktide because you were frustrated with the stability or the cosmetics, or take your pick from however many other issues that were there at launch, then hell yeah, go back now. You'll probably have a good time and enjoy what you weren't able to before. On the other hand, if you've spent a fair amount of time and you've maxed out at least one character, then you'll probably start getting a little bored after just another 5 hours or so. So the game still needs a lot of work, and I think that it will get there eventually, but hopefully that happens when people are still interested in what Fatshark has to offer. So in my opinion, there is a pretty good chance that they might try and relaunch the game when it comes out with that Xbox version. And that would be a really good way to try and kickstart some action back in, but they would definitely need to make sure that they have cross-play enabled so that the whole community can come together. But that's pretty much where I'm at for Darktide 6 months after launch. I hope that you all enjoyed the video, and if you do want to see more, then please let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about Darktide? Have you played it recently? And if at all, is there anything that would probably bring you back? So let me know what you think down below, and that's probably a good point to call it for today. I've been Kiv, and I will see you all on the next one.